everyone, it's me, Stef The Alter Nerd, your nerdy alternative, and I am joined by my good friend, DC lawyer, John Witherspoon, and we are live on Royal Clubhouse, and if you missed the live stream, then you can always catch it every Friday, 7 o'clock UK time, 2 o'clock Eastern. But in this segment for the Hazard and Megsy News of the Week, can Meghan Markle be sued by ex-Archewell employees for, we'll call it, alleged bullying? Because it's very interesting what's happened recently, John, because there's another Archewell employee that seemingly has quit. Now, when I say it's very interesting, I say it's very interesting for one reason. It's not made the headlines, and I wonder why. The only place that you've really seen it at the moment is this place here, which is on Axios. Scoop, top advisor to Duke and Duchess of Sussex, joins Brunswick as partner. The spin here is she's joining rather than, hang on a minute, she's quitting. Christine Shermer, hopefully I've pronounced that right, senior advisor to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, will join Brunswick Group, Axios First Learn. Now, we do know only a couple of weeks ago that their chief of staff quit just a couple of days prior to their trip to Colombia. And so that made worldwide news. But I wonder why this isn't. Now, there is a blind item, guys. Take this with a pinch of salt. Do your own research and all that malarkey. Now, I'm assuming that when they're talking about the illiterate one here, they're referencing Meghan Markle, as it's literally mentioned down here as well. But this blind item says, speaking of the illiterate one, a very recent former employee has spoken to 2 attorneys, each of whom offer employment litigation as part of their services. So, speaking really in terms of, let's say, generalities here, John, when you have, let's say, a boss who has a rumoured history of extreme bullying to the point where, again, it's alleged that, you know, people have been off work sick, off stress because of it, can ex-employees sue their employer for bullying? Can that happen even if there's, let's say, an NDA in place? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as the NDA is concerned, one thing that we've talked about before, which is pretty much universally true, is that an NDA cannot shield an employer from some sort of illegal activity. And so that, you know, is not really an angle here unless there's been some problem. I think it's really important to think about bullying in sort of the, you know, the context that would, you know, just be sort of tossed around about, you know, like a schoolyard bully or some context like that, versus in a legal sense. The real distinction that I want to make, which I think is important, and by the way, I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just sort of sharing some general opinions about this. And I'm also not a California lawyer. Archewell is obviously located in California. And California does have some nuanced laws and actually some, from what I understand, enhanced protections for people in the workplace. But the point I want to make is it is not a problem legally in most circumstances to have a very difficult or very demanding boss, or a boss that is always in a bad mood, or a boss that is always ranting and raving about something, or a boss that continually turns back work to subordinates and says, I don't like this, I want you to change it. I know I just asked you to change it one way 5 minutes ago, but now I'm asking you to change it back to the way that you had it originally. None of those types of situations are really the types of things that would get an employer into trouble from a legal standpoint. When you're talking about bullying or workplace harassment, you're talking more about things like a repeated and directed effort to humiliate a particular employee for some reason, to pick on an employee, or if there are coworkers who are directing some ill will of some sort at a particular employee, the boss knows about it or should have known about it and doesn't do anything about it, that can be problematic. Or if the boss does something like constantly get directly in the face of an employee and berates the employee, that can potentially be problematic. If there's a situation where someone is receiving disparate treatment because of some immutable characteristics, such as their gender or their skin color, or if there are things going on in the office, say there are off-color jokes that are being made, which make people uncomfortable. Those are the types of things that are typically actionable. I have not heard anything, and of course the report that was done at the Palace in London has never been released in any shape or form, to my knowledge. I've never heard any direct evidence come out about anything that goes on at Archewell in California. So I think when people use the term bullying, what they're really talking about is, this is just not a very pleasant place to do work, because I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel thanks. My boss is potentially always in a bad mood. When my boss wants something changed, it's not, the sentiment about the change or the correction is not made in a productive, uplifting, or constructive criticism type of a way. And I suspect that that's really what's going on here. When people talk about Meghan and Harry being difficult to work with, it's just that they are not experienced persons. They're probably, from what it sounds like, very demanding. They don't probably have a very good understanding of how to motivate people and how to make people feel appreciated. Again, my opinion, just from everything that I have heard, tends to be more in that direction. And I can tell you, I have personally, Washington, D.C. being, Washington, London, New York, Hollywood, all can be very, very difficult environments to work in. I have worked for several female bosses in some very high stress environments. And the thing that kept me and everybody else going was the amount of praise that was heaped on me and everybody else, saying, you know what, I was in a bad mood yesterday and you were so helpful to me, even though things were really difficult, or you really went above and beyond. I know that, again, I asked you to do something that was probably not terribly fun for you, or it didn't seem fair or whatever, but you came through and I'm really pleased with the result. Those types of environments, I think, are much more comfortable to work in than what it sounds like the environment is at Archewell. So again, this is all just opinion, all just conjecture on my part, but I'm not really hearing anything that sounds like it's legally actionable. And by the way, from that blind item that you mentioned, Steph, there are any number of reasons why an employee could go to a lawyer to talk about their work situation. They could have an on-the-job injury. And I know I had an issue at one point where I felt like I had hurt my arm from lifting a suitcase into an overhead bin. And, just from the amount of flying that I was doing, my arm started to hurt and I got concerned about that. There was another time when, I know people have had wage and hour disputes or working condition disputes, or they have felt like there's some sort of physical hazard in the workplace. Maybe there's, a concern about asbestos, who knows? All of these are just examples. So it does not necessarily mean that somebody is putting the wheels in motion to file a suit against Archewell or against Meghan and Harry or somebody else because of something that is legally actionable that's going on.
Well, I suppose if a situation like that ever went to court, there probably would be a lot of legal wrangling over the definition of bullying, because it's like saying, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist, right? One person's bully is just another person's employer. So it will probably, if that kind of situation ever came to court, the whole kind of straw that will break the camel's back, that will really make or break the case, is the judge's definition of bullying, right?
Well, not necessarily the judges, but really the law's definition of bullying. And as I sort of alluded to, you need a situation where there is something that is happening on a repeated basis, not just a one-off. Somebody said something that somebody else thought was offensive, and maybe the person came back and apologized. I don't think that's likely to be the type of thing that is going to form the basis of a lawsuit. It has to be, in most cases, as I said, something where the alleged offensive behavior zeroes in on something like someone's sexual preference or their gender or their skin color or their country of origin or anything like that. Those are the types of things that can really form the basis of a legal action. And by the way, I'll just point out as well, when I talk about repeated types of activities, this is, again, just for people's general consumption. There's no substitute in a situation like that for keeping a little bit of a journal or a ledger or a log of these types of things, because that makes it a lot easier. If you do decide you want to go to human resources, if you do decide you want to talk to an attorney, if something does end up in court, it's much easier to say, hey, look, I've got some records here. This rose to the point where I actually took out a pen and a piece of paper. I started writing down dates and times and things that happened to me that I didn't feel very good about. And and now I've got all this stuff together. I mean, it's kind of the antithesis of, people probably remember, when Prince Harry went into court in London the last time, and the judge said, well, what, evidence do you have? And he was, in so many words, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically just said, well, that's why I've come here. I'm going to tell you all of these things. Well, that's nowhere near as powerful as having some records and having some notes being made about what was going on.
So, just to kind of round things up here for this particular segment, can Meghan Markle be sued by ex-Archewell employees for alleged bullying? Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard from many lawyers from America, anyone can be sued for literally anything and everything, right? However, would ex-Archewell employees in this kind of scenario be successful in suing Megsy for alleged bullying? Well, it looks like that's kind of a difficult one to answer, because yes, it depends on the law's definition of bullying, but it's then the ex-Archewell's employees' responsibility to ensure that their complaint, that their case actually reaches that kind of bar of what the law considers is bullying, which really, in the grand scheme of things, it seems it's very difficult to do. Would you say that's true?
Well, if there has been a problem, I would say you're probably going to have other people that can come out of the woodwork that you can call during the discovery process, where you bring people in and you ask them to make statements that are sworn statements about, what did you see? What did you hear? Those are the types of things that can really move the case forward. And I know we've talked on other occasions, and I'm sure we'll talk again about the Samantha Markle case. You've got to reach a certain threshold of probability that a problem exists to even get into court. And then once you're in court, you have to, again, clear a hurdle in terms of convincing the judge, convincing the jury that, yes, these types of things did happen. A lot of cases, obviously, it's going to come up to a situation where it's a kind of a he said, she said. But again, if you've got sworn statements, if you've got other people who've come in and done depositions, and if you've got other people that come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, I was treated the same way, or I know, so-and-so who was also an employee was also treated the same way. It's just you have to pile up evidence to reach that threshold for it to be, actionable, as I've said, and to get a verdict. And there is no smoking gun in the way that there would be potentially, unless you've got, video or audio recordings of something that went on in the office. That would obviously be very persuasive. But really what it comes down to in a lot of cases is just convincing the judge or convincing the jury. And that's why we have judges and we have juries that can just really kind of give it the sniff test and say, yeah, I think there's something here, and this probably shouldn't happen, or it shouldn't have happened. And so we're going to, render a verdict one way or the other.
Mm. Well, on that bombshell, guys, those that are watching on the live, stay exactly where you are. We are not done with you yet. But if you appreciated what came out of John's gob, and of course you did, because his logic is definitely undeniable, then make sure you head on over to Instagram and follow his Instagram page at WitherspoonDC. You got any questions for him? You can message him there. It's not guaranteed that he'll be able to answer your questions or all your questions, but it is the way to be able to contact him at the very least. And if you appreciated this part of Royal Clubhouse, and of course you did, whether you're live or on the replay, then do make sure you subscribe to join our Alter Nerd tribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And again, those that are watching on live, stay exactly where you are. We are not done with you yet. But those watching on the replay, as I'm just trying to find, I thought I had it. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Those that are watching on the replay, thanks so much for tuning in. Here are some videos that you may want to clickety-click, clickety-click.